Oh, by the way, we're going to hear from all the Aerosmith fans after my comment. Hope you're ready for that.
Why is that?
Yeah.
They're the ones who came. They love this movie so much they wrote "Walk This Way."
Well, that's true. We do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. It's a podcast where we are breaking down and celebrating the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. In our inaugural season, we are breaking down the film Young Frankenstein, one exploding floor light at a time. I'm Alan Sanders.
And I'm Walt Murray.
And joining us once again, we've got Matt Gray. Welcome.
And I'm back again.
Got you able to pull the thong out of those places that the
Absolutely
thong...
not. It's still there.
It's
for my comfort.
Okay.
But how did you enjoy my piano playing?
Well, you were bouncing up and down just like Igor, and
it's the only way I can keep time.
We got Consuelo Banana Hammock over here.
You guys don't know the comfort it brings, okay?
It's like the burrito wrap for a child. Hey, we're back to burritos.
There we go.
Oh, is that what you're reading?
No, of course not.
Yeah, Febreze has that cease and desist on the way.
Yeah, we're gonna have to just.
We don't want anything to do with these guys.
Well, welcome back. It is hump day, halfway through the week, and Igor, we got a glimpse of him yesterday, but we won't really get much of him today. But we do continue the tap dance, so let's set the stage. 83, that's the minute we're on, and we're going to continue the tap dance going on between Dr. Frankenstein and his creature, but we're going to end with Dr. Frankenstein, well, in a fall of some kind. And in between, I'm going to tease this ahead of time. In between, I didn't realize just how agrarian Transylvania was.
It is oddly very agrarian. I was shocked to see it.
Normally when I go to the theater, I'm thinking for snacks, I'm thinking popcorn, nachos maybe, get one of those Taste Freeze or maybe a Slurpee.
You're so pedestrian.
I never thought of bringing like leaf lettuce.
I take a full head of lettuce
to
with
the
me
theater
every time.
just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Thank God they didn't have head lettuce. This looks like leaf lettuce here because
well,
head lettuce
you kind of
like
pull it
giant
apart.
Softball.
You don't eat it like an apple.
Well, depends if you keep it for throwing. Well, let's start off at the beginning with the dance move because we are seeing now the most complex tap dance moves between these two. They are in perfect sync. They're doing the tap dance. Their feet are moving. The canes are moving. They're going back and forth. Dr. Frankenstein is up a little bit closer to the center stage up front. The monster a little bit behind. And I don't know what this move is called. This sort of like flying routine that they do in tap dance. Sort of like this is the biggest bombastic thing you do where your arms are pinwheeling and you're making both of your feet are tapping. Peter Boyle is doing this in boots.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you think he's not because the medium shot, they pull back and you see his boots up clicking. Now, I'm not suggesting that these are tap boots, but he's at least dancing up on stage.
Well, and those are the moves I usually make when I'm falling down. So that's usually what I look like.
I mean, the audience loves it. They are totally into Peter Boyle's routine. It's sort of like this is his solo. He's sort of doing the thing where it's like, oh, the most impressive dance move of the whole routine, and everyone's. It's not even done, and they're already clapping in between, like in the midst of this dance.
Well, and I thought it was interesting at the opening of this minute where they're doing the cane dance. And at first I was kind of thrown off by it because I was like, why aren't they just standing side by side? And I realized that doing this dance, they are taking up so much space. And there was no way they really could have caught both of them in the camera lens at the same time doing that without hitting each other.
But compositionally, it's a much better looking shot when we're sort of, instead of seeing them as like a profile or seeing them flat, we've got some depth. Peter Boyle's a little further back, Gene Wilder's a little further forward, and yet we see them both because the camera is not center stage, it's off to the side, an angled shot. And I love it. I love when the two canes are going back and forth because you can watch, they're hitting their marks, they're tapping. It's one of those moments where I wish I had something funny to add, It's just a nice dance routine.
It really is. It is great. And you could have put this in, any of those 1960s, 70s variety shows where they would do stuff like this. It is that quality.
I mean, I'm thinking this is the Fred Astaire number. I mean, this is Dancing in the Rain or Singing in the Rain.
Yeah. Well, and it has to go and really point to how both of these actors have had great stage experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's where they learned it or, perfected that. But it is absolutely a great dance number.
Well, let me add this fact. I told you yesterday I had a comment about this entire scene. We already know that Gene Wilder fought hard to keep the scene in, and here's something interesting about this Putting on the Ritz by Irving Berlin. We already told you earlier in the week that it was released in 1930 with the film of the same name. It was a hit for Fred Astaire in 46 and then again in 82 for the one-hit wonder Taco. We've mentioned Fred Astaire today. We mentioned Taco earlier this week. As it turns out, this song and dance was the Young Frankenstein showstopper. Time raved at the time this movie came out. It's some sort of deranged high point in contemporary film comedy. Choreographer Alan Johnson had worked for Mel Brooks on The Producers. He later directed Brooks's zany antics for The Inquisition in History of the World, saying, "Everybody gave me credit for this bizarre insanity of the scene." Now, that was Brooks saying that. But it was basically Gene's idea. My directing just helped make it work. The scene, however, almost broke the film's budget over how much it cost to gain the rights and for the union extras, I guess, they needed to have in the scene. All the people in the theater, I guess, this entire song and dance number, that all the people had to be paid union wages, and it was just going to cause budget overrun.
Why would they have to be paid union wages?
It's a union film. It's a SAG film. The Screen Actors Guild. So even though they're in the audience, there's still every one of those people have to be paid. So when you have a crowd of that size and you're trying to keep a limited budget for things like building, I don't know, a 35-foot set with a rising table... that all of a sudden when you're paying, I don't know, maybe $50 a day for people to be dressed up, to have to dress that many people, to put them all into costume and put them in the theater, rehearse it, direct it, run it. I mean, they didn't shoot this in one day.
No, but I did notice that the audience scenes are pretty tight, and so I could see them shooting that in one day and then...
Well, they probably shot it over 2 or 3 days, all of this. To be honest, just knowing how much goes into a film with the police coming in, Inspector Kemp at the back, having that whole setup. So this scene... that is now iconic, you said that yesterday, nearly not only didn't make it in because of Brooks, but nearly didn't make it because it was breaking the budget.
That's crazy. Does it say how much it costs for them to use the music?
I could not find that out. They just comment was the scene almost broke the film's budget over music rights and union extras.
I would have thought by that point that song would have been, what do they call it when anybody...
It wasn't in the public domain. No, it wasn't old enough. Even if it had been the 30s version, it wasn't old enough. And remember, they used the 46 remake.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So it was only less than 30 years old.
Correct.
25 years old at that time.
So, so some licensing still in there. And don't forget, the reason Frankenstein's head is round is because Universal owns that image until 2026.
That's right. That's right.
Did you know that, Matt?
I had no idea about
Apparently, you're way behind on listening to the podcast.
I guess I am.
Yeah, wow, Universal Studios owns the rights to the Boris Karloff makeup design, or the makeup design used for Boris Karloff with a flat head. And so that's why when you see other Frankensteins that are not part of a Universal production, they're not allowed to have a flat head.
It's a bit annoying.
Yeah,
I can
a little
imagine.
Weird. Well, the top hat wouldn't have stayed on very well if he had a flat head.
Hey, they kind of got away with it by putting the top hat on.
They
him.
Sure did.
He's got a flat head.
He does have a flat head. Now it's way up almost off screen. But
I can't figure out, at about second 18, when the footlight explodes, I can't figure out what actually explodes.
Well, I can't either, and I looked several times as I was looking at the scene.
I mean, there's a flash,
it explodes, but
there's some flame, and you get the sense that Gene Wilder's trying to stamp it out, but even on the reverse shot, you don't see any lights out.
No, you don't. So it is weird. I don't know. I assume that they are inferring that a light blew, but you don't see that light being out. You don't see anything like that. And how many lights blow and cause a fire immediately on stage?
Is it possible that maybe the night before Kiss was on stage and one of the pyrotechnics accidentally got triggered?
That may be.
Because, I've seen Kiss when they did their throwback tour, and they had platform boots just like what Frankenstein's creature's wearing.
That's true.
So maybe Gene Simmons, different kind of creature.
Definitely a different kind of creature.
But Gene Simmons would often have these pyrotechnics going on while he was doing some of his guitar work.
Sticking his tongue onto someone in the crowd, probably.
Wasn't he the demon?
Yeah,
he was the demon.
Blue fire and all kinds of crazy
That's
stuff.
all I can think of. If you go and look very closely when it blows, it's almost like one of those mini stage pyrotechnics, because you see a pop, some smoke, but you see just a tiny jet of flame, just a little small, just a little boop of flame.
And the light does not go out.
No, there's no light out. But Gene Wilder makes as if he's stamping something out, and then tries to turn that stamping into some kind of half-ass, let's start dancing in our tap routine again.
Well, and one of the things I've always wondered about this is, the music stops, he goes and stamps it out, and then he says, he signals to the musicians to start again. Why don't they start?
I don't know. He's like 5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8. For God's sakes, come on. Are you trying to make me look like a fool?
And he's all by himself. Like, everyone's stunned.
Yeah.
Why? Why is everyone stunned
Exactly.
at this moment? Is it because the monster made a roar?
Yeah, I know that this movie has thrown realism out the window a long time ago.
What?
I know. This is just my observation.
Matt, this is a documentary.
Bringing something new to the table, I know. But it makes absolutely no sense to me that they just watched a dead man reanimated back to life doing a tap dance. A light goes off, and frankly, could scare anybody. He roars back, and everyone goes, it's I can't believe what I'm watching right now. And they boo, and they throw lettuce on stage. Do you remember what you just saw?
Yeah, see, that is one of the few
Maybe
real
they're
huge
watching this
problems.
movie 1 second at a time, and it's already been yesterday, and now we're a brand new second.
Yeah,
That could be it.
I cannot wrap my head around why they would all boo and instantly turn on this.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a dead man.
Yeah, so
Reanimated from life.
I'll just kind of warn you, starting right now, over the next 15 minutes, I do have some problems with some of the stuff in this movie. I will start this by saying, I love this movie. And please don't take anything I say over the next 15 episodes to insinuate that I don't love this movie. But like you're saying, Matt, you've just watched a dead guy who has had a abnormal brain taken out of the brain repository and shoved into his skull and brought back to life. And you're going to boo because the
light scared him?
Yeah.
And they're like, this thing is instantly a disappointment.
I'm so disappointed.
This is breaking new grounds, literally in every sense of the word, but a light scared him, so you know what? Let's get rid of this.
So now I'm going to pelt he and the doctor who brought him back to life
Indeed.
with vegetables.
The appropriate response.
I mean, he doesn't even go to attack the crowd. He doesn't do anything.
Nope.
He roars, but the whole time while while Dr. Frankenstein's putting out the fire, he's actually pulling back. Like he wants to get off the stage.
Yeah.
He wants to leave. He's not a threat to anybody.
No, and the crowd goes nuts. And I guess he didn't say anything up front of, hey, don't insult him, don't provoke him, because we don't want to have a disaster on our hands. But basically everything that he and the crowd can do to get him going, he does. And I even noticed that Dr. Frankenstein says a couple of times, you're starting to make me look like a fool. I will not let you destroy my work. He starts demeaning the creature, which is exactly what we already know is part of the problem.
It's not what you don't want to do that.
No.
Well, I'm wondering, did the audience forget the point of the show? The only way this makes sense is if this was an actual stage show that was falling apart. If you totally forgot we're here to watch a reanimated dead guy, we're here to watch a song and dance number, then I get it. So did they just forget why they're here?
Well, and this is not supposed to be a room full of people going to see a performance. This is a room full of scientists.
Academics.
Absolutely. And so I guess they were so spellbound by the awesome dancing that they kind of lost themselves.
You'd even think that the fact that he reacted to the light in that way would be like, oh, look, he has the motor functions of fight or flight.
Right.
They're like, yeah, that's also amazing, isn't it? But no, they're like, oh, he ruined the dance. Forget this thing.
The review the next day in the Times. Up until the point when the light blew, it looked like a positive performance, but ended on such a sour note that I realized my evening in theater was ruined.
Totally destroyed. But again, this was not supposed to be theater. This was supposed to be
a scientific
demonstration. And and granted, I lose myself in this one every time. I kind of forget that. But that's what this is. It's supposed to be. And I've not been to too many scientific demonstrations they're showing what happens when you reanimate a dead body. But maybe you do kind of get lost.
Maybe this is the normal reaction.
Entertainment. Yeah.
You got lost in the show.
Yeah. And maybe the closest thing I can think of would maybe be an Aerosmith show or the Rolling Stones. And maybe as you're watching their reanimated corpses go through the motions, you do kind of forget what you're there to see. But
the closest I've ever been to an audience doing this is I had tickets to go see an Iron Maiden concert, and apparently either one of the guys' flight to get into Atlanta was delayed because of weather, and they kept trying to like drag it out, and finally a guy comes out on stage, the I don't know if it was the manager or whoever, he comes like, all right, everybody, I'm really sorry to say this, we're gonna have to postpone this until tomorrow. You can use your same tickets, and people went flipping nuts. You would have thought that we had, please have your arm cut off as you leave the theater. It was, but that's the only time I've ever been in an audience that reacted like this audience is reacting.
Well, I would imagine that an Iron Maiden crowd was not real happy with that.
Well, I remember I almost got fired because I had tickets to go see Iron Maiden and I had taken the day off, but I was scheduled to work the next day. And I went to the boss. I was like, I can't go. The concert got postponed. I'm like, and being young, I said, and I need to go. I spent money on these tickets. And like, well, you will lose your job if you go. And I was like, are you serious? And then I finally said, this is how dumb I was. I said, well, I'm still going.
Oh,
and I did go. I didn't lose my job, but I didn't think about it. How many people were probably upset because they may not have been able to come back the following night.
Well, I saw Cheap Trick at Six Flags in a pouring down lightning storm, and that was one of the best concerts I've ever been to. So I understand, man. I get you. So yeah. I wouldn't have missed that. I'd gone back the next day if they had.
Oh, I did, and it was great. So it was fantastic. Ironically, the name of the tour was the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son tour.
Yeah,
that had to do with about a child of the seventh one that has special powers and can do things.
You just can't get a plane into Hartsfield.
Apparently the singer can't figure out how to land. I don't think it was Bruce Dickinson either. I think it was the guitarist. I think it was the guitarist. I can't remember exactly what they said. But it was definitely one of the guys because it made the news. It was something about because of a problem a concert had to be, and it was at the Fox Theater of all places.
Wow. Well, and you could do some damage at the Fox too, and get a crowd riled up. That's not the band. That is not the fan base to disappoint.
So that is the closest in my entire life of being at concerts, shows, ball games that I've seen a crowd go bananas like this. And I've never been at a crowd that was throwing vegetables up on stage.
No, I've never been to that. So
I can't say that I have.
I was at a hockey game.
Actually, with the cost of fresh vegetables today, I'd probably be really happy to go up there and sweep the stage.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Jackpot!
Free food.
Exactly. Look at all this lettuce.
That apple's hardly destroyed at all.
Yeah, we talked about...
Look at all this lettuce, because lettuce is a premium buy.
Man, all this lettuce.
That's 32 cents a head.
You mean that garbage?
Well, while we're at a pause here where we're waiting for Dr. Frankenstein to try to see if he can salvage the night, let's take a look at some of the lines that were left out, and actually a couple of things were rearranged. When the fire goes up, there are murmurs within the audience, according to the script. Freddy rushes down to the footlights as he goes on singing and starts to put out the fire. He's singing, dressed up like $1 million trooper. All of a sudden you hear the monster behind him. Urgh! Woman in the audience begins to scream. Freddy looking up, trying hard to look like Gary Cooper, like trying to still hold it together. There's another embarrassing pause. Freddy is now kneeling and just stamping out the last of the flames. Freddy, back over his shoulder. That's your cue. Go on. This is nothing. Nothing, I tell you. Go on, sing. Suddenly, jeers from the audience. The monster gets a tomato right in the face. Screams. Freddy yells, ladies and gentlemen, please, I beg you, for safety's sake, don't humiliate him, which is in the script. Then Freddy looks to Igor to pick up on the cue, and he starts singing Super Duper, Come Let's Mix Where Rockefellers Walk with Sticks and Umbrellas in Their Midst. The monster knows it's his cue. He's supposed to say, put it on the Ritz. But instead, he just stands there. Freddy, moving forward. For God's sake, go on. Are you trying to make me look like a fool? Sing, you amateur. Sing.
Again, walking right into this trap of insulting the monster, but I'm cool with the way they pared that down. Again, I think kind of some extraneous lines there that they didn't really need. So
more good editing for the final cut, as usual, that we've seen in the past.
What's wild is he yells at the audience, which is in the script and in the movie, don't humiliate him. And the next thing, which was taken from the script,
instantly
for
humiliate.
God's sake, you're making me look like a fool. Sing, you amateur. Sing.
Well, and this kind of
dance for me, bitch.
You want these singles? You got to work for it.
And apparently, much like many people who are narcissistic, they know when other people are making the mistake, but they don't know when they themselves are committing it.
Yeah, and I was going to say this kind of goes back to the comment I made yesterday that, this narcissism and God complex of his really is always right there below the surface. And the second he feels like the tables are turning against him, he lashes out. And he lashes out at the crowd, he lashes out at the monster. It's never his fault. It's everybody else.
One of the other things that was left out is the monster, after being pelted with eggs and tomatoes, and of course we don't have that. They just kept it lettuce, which makes sense. You don't want to ruin all of the costuming and stuff. And
right.
Especially when you have to have multiple takes. But Freddy rushes to him. Stop, I say, stop. The monster is halted for a moment by the authority in Freddy's voice. And then there's a mixture of this that we get in the movie, but the original lines as is, go back. Do you understand me? I will not let you destroy my work. As your master, as your creator, I command you, go back. And then the monster gives Freddy a colossal whack and then jumps into the audience. And that's, of course, it's similar, but we get a little massaged version of that he still says, I am your creator, and that's when he gets whacked and thrown into the pile of lettuce.
Okay. Interesting.
So the God complex, and we talked about how the embarrassment causes the monster to lose his ability for being kind or at least agreeable.
And controlled.
Apparently, when Dr. Frankenstein feels mocked or feels like his reputation or his name or the things he values are being mocked, he actually becomes a complete dick.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely.
At the very beginning, he treated... Brainy Smurf was a bit of a smartass, but Dr. Frankenstein acted like a dick. And he's been like that, and now he's doing it to his own creation.
And oddly, the only person I can't think of him doing that with is Elizabeth.
No,
that
she doesn't treat Elizabeth bad at all.
Garbage, yeah.
And she treats him the worst of anybody.
Yeah, and she has him under heel all the time. And, he puts up with her being...
And we already know it's not because she's great in bed, because she ain't putting any out to him.
No. And
he barely got elbow sex.
Well, he did say that she is his financier. So that's probably a big motivator, but...
Not yet, though.
Not yet. Well, so... But
wait,
so
it feels like we talked about that.
Golly. Oh, jeez.
Well, remember, time is different in Transylvania.
That's true.
We're sort of like we had last week, we're sort of like the Dr. Manhattans all of a sudden, where time exists simultaneously everywhere. So
that's right.
We live all of these minutes at the same time.
That's right. I feel like I am living all these minutes the same. Yes. So, anyway, I have no idea why he puts up with it from her, but he sure doesn't put up with it from anybody else.
We do have a positive note about all this lettuce being thrown, because it does make a nice soft bed for him to fall in.
It does. It does. That may be one of the lamest falls I've ever seen that would actually knock somebody unconscious.
Yeah. And we do, I said we only got a brief glimpse. We do at the very last second, truly the last second of this minute, Igor comes running over to help. And Inga also, we see her come running out from the wings to help the doctor, who apparently looks like he's been knocked out from being shoved by the creature.
Yeah, and I guess to give him some credit, the creature does, he's a pretty tough guy, pretty strong, so it was probably a pretty good hit.
I'm kind of glad they didn't do something that I was expecting. We've seen it in other movies. I think actually they even did it in No, they did it in Temple of Doom. I was kind of expecting that once he got shoved, that there'd be that sort of drag down that cord shoved, and you'd like go sliding an extra 20 feet or something, like all the way up to the curtain.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen here. But, that's sort of that visual gag. I was expecting a Mel Brooks thing like that, where it wasn't just a shove and he falls down, but literally goes then sliding an additional 10 feet.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about this, but how many times in this movie have you expected kind of a Mel Brooks pratfall or a Mel Brooks over the top?
Well, the last
thing
time we
and
talked about it was
gotten
if Mel Brooks had made this movie even maybe 10 years later, when Frankenstein leaves the blind man's door, instead of crashing the whole door down, it would have been a silhouette of his like crashing through it like a cartoon.
Right, sure.
And he would have had like the cutout of Frankenstein's outline.
That's right. It would have been, you're right, more cartoonish. So.
Well, I think that's kind of what happened with Mel Brooks. He kind of went more cartoonish, especially more in the mid to late 80s and into the early 90s, where this was certainly this is the best that I think that he's ever done.
I think so, too.
I mean, I love Blazing Saddles. It's still my all-time favorite because of a whole different reason, because it's a Western, because I've got that movie memorized. It has been something that's been indelibly etched in my brain since childhood. But especially doing this minute by minute, I think the craft of this film is it's unbelievably good.
Yeah, I have to agree. And as I said before, this was going in my favorite Mel Brooks movie, my favorite Gene Wilder movie, and I've come to appreciate it more and more as I've gone through it. So, and Matt, you're relatively new to the movie. You've now had several months under your belt of it. But I mean, do you agree, as far as this minute goes, that it has the right amount of Mel Brooks in it?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, like you guys said, compared to his other, I have limited experience already with Mel Brooks movies in general, but, like Blazing Saddles and Spaceballs and stuff, this does seem like a more, I guess you could call it a smarter comedy in terms of the actual humor itself. So, yeah, it does seem they made the right choices when it comes to, like you were saying, he falls over, he doesn't slide 20 feet across the floor. They definitely made the right choices to make it more of a refined, smarter comedy. And it worked out really well.
It feels like the difference when you say somebody made a movie or somebody made a film.
Yeah.
It's almost like we know the same, but you kind of use movie to mean, well, you made a movie.
Right.
But when it's higher,
it's a wonderful
it's a film.
Yeah, I would say I've seen a lot of movies, and I've seen far fewer films.
Right. This is definitely a fine film.
It is.
It just happens to be one of the best comedies ever done.
Yeah, and I think if you had explained that to me before I saw it, I might not have wanted to see it. I'd have been like, nah, that sounds too highfalutin for me. I'll go see Star Wars again or something. I don't know.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a movie.
Harold and Kumar at the White Castle.
Yeah. Yeah, those are definitely movies.
I know there's going to be some rough minutes coming up before we make it to the end of the movie, but that does not in any way take away from how I feel about this particular film and the fact that we're closing in on some of these final minutes. And I say final minutes, we still got about 20 or so more to go. I am still enamored with this movie.
Yeah, I think it's great. And, it really, like I said, not to take anything away from this movie because I love it. And the acting here in this scene is just as solid as it is throughout the rest of the movie. And I'm really amazed at Peter Boyle and his ability to do the things that he does. I mean, he's a really athletic guy, for a big lumbering beast, particularly.
Well, we know that the cost overruns with hiring this many extras for this scene, and several of them were kept for things like the angry town hall meeting and then the angry villagers storming the castle later in the movie. I want to throw this one out here now as we begin to wrap up minute number 83. Even the extras in Young Frankenstein were dedicated, like one of the extras who would then be asked to play an angry villager. The extra's name was Clement von Frankenstein, his real name, and he begged to be part of the movie on that basis alone.
Mm-hmm. And did you notice he's credited on IMDb?
Yeah.
So that's really awesome.
So there was a Frankenstein who said, I want to be part of a Frankenstein movie.
Nah, we don't need you.
You're not qualified. What?
Right. You can't sit in an audience.
All right, well, as we begin to wrap this up, there's obviously a lot more going to happen in this theater because the song and dance, the soft shoe, has turned into an angry mob of intellectuals.
As it often does.
And the monster looks like he's about ready to do a stage dive, so I'm not sure what he's about to do. I'm not sure what happened to Dr. Frankenstein. I know Inga's on the stage. We see Igor on the stage. We haven't seen the police move into position yet. I imagine all chaos is about to ensue, but we can't get to it yet because it's the end of this minute. That'll have to happen next minute when we come back tomorrow. In the meantime, before we tease what's coming up, do you have anything there, Matt? Anything we forgot?
Didn't forget anything, but just to, as we're wrapping up, like you said, watching this movie really made me appreciate Gene Wilder's acting ability as a whole. Because I've always heard about Gene Wilder, I've always known about him, and he's that comedian, he's that funny guy that, in the older movies. But I think this movie really showed his true acting strengths, and that's something you can appreciate.
Walt? No, I think we've really covered it for this minute. And Matt, appreciate you coming back in and joining us for this for these 3 minutes. I think these are 3 great minutes.
A good 3 minutes for Igor to come in and give his thoughts, isn't it?
Yes, thanks, Igor. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Go look for your hump. Well, we want everyone to come back tomorrow because minute number 84 will bring in a brand new guest. Dave D'Alessandro is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about Dr. Frankenstein being knocked out with his monster on the loose, and we'll end with Inga saying, "Oh, Doctor, I feel so terrible." Wonder where that's going.
Well, we can only guess at this point.
Walt, where can people go to learn more about us?
One of the best places to go look for us, we're really all over the place, but in many ways, find us on our webpage, thewilderride.com, and from there you can link to past episodes. You can link to places you can find us on the web. You can find our Facebook pages and our Patreon, and kind of all things The Wilder Ride are all wrapped up there on our website. So again, that's thewilderride.com, and also from there, if you want to communicate with us privately, you can send us an email.
And on this hump day, take a quick second. If you haven't given us a review, specifically on iTunes, we'd love for you guys to just take a few seconds. Don't just put the 5 stars or the 4 stars, or whatever stars you want to give us. Add a little comment that puts more weight to the stars you give us, which helps more people find us, and we would really appreciate that. So thanks, everybody. Definitely come back tomorrow, minute number 84, on this, The Wilder Ride.
And Matt, thanks for not wearing your banana hammock back in here after the.
What do you mean? He said at the very beginning he's still wearing it.
Well, thanks for
putting
your tuxedo back on.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to look fancy for you guys.
By the way, I figured out where the hump went.
Really?
Yeah, but the idiot put it in the back instead of the front.
Great.
I was wondering what that was. What hump? Just put a potato in your pants. I did. Why'd they go run away screaming? Put it in the bag.